Today, I want to spend a few minutes talking to you about letters of recommendation. So, if you're the parent of a junior who is embarking upon the college process, this is for you. And if you are a junior yourself, this is for you. This is the time of year, as we are wrapping up spring semester of junior year, that students need to be thinking about who they're going to ask to write their letters of recommendation. So how do we handle this? So a couple of tips. First and foremost, again, time is now. It is not a good idea to wait until coming back to school in fall semester of senior year to ask for these types of letters to be written. For one thing, it's really important to remember that teachers spend a good amount of time on these and are working hard to advocate for the students they're writing about in this process. And so to spring something on them in the fall with deadlines looming is not the best move to make in terms of their being respectful of their time. The other thing is, it is important that students are thinking about it and asking now, because there are some teachers that are so popular, at least in the school groups I tend to work with, that they fill up, and the student who waits till the end even of this semester may be told, I'm sorry, I've already agreed to write the number of letters that I'm capable of in any given cycle. So doing things now. So the first tip to take away from this is the time is now. It is spring. I'm recording this at the end of April, so this is the time before school ends for students to be making contact with their teachers and asking. So how do they ask? Well, lots of opinions about all of this, but my opinion, and I believe this very strongly, is that the first step is actually to talk to the teacher in person, to have a conversation, to say, I am working on my list of teacher recommendations or recommenders, and I was wondering if you would be willing to write one for me for the college application process next fall. Most of your teachers that students ask are going to say yes. Someone might not say yes, but there could be reasons that they do. Again, their roster could be full. But honestly, if they say no, it's better to know that up front. The student may feel a little hurt by that in the beginning, but we don't want a teacher writing if they don't feel like they can actually do a really good job advocating for the student. But asking in person, I think, is absolutely the first step. The other thing this does is it allows the teacher to say to the student if they have or if they desire some additional information. For example, sometimes teachers ask students to provide a resume. Sometimes teachers say, I have this list of 4 or 5 questions that I need you to answer so that I'm prepared to write your letter. Sometimes they say, I don't do anything until the summer and I'll be back in touch with you when I need to get something from you. But whatever it is, if it is anything, the student just needs to know what the next steps are going to be when it comes to these letters. So asking now allows them time to do that, and asking in person allows that conversation to happen. Then my big tip to add on to that is at the end of that conversation, teacher says yes, student knows what's got to be done. Student then goes back and sends an email thanking the teacher for agreeing to do it, responding if there is additional information requested with that information, or determining that they will get that to the teacher soon. And I like that because now we've got something also in writing. So there was a conversation followed up by something in writing so that the student can verify and always have something to go back to. Not that teachers are going to blow it off, but I just like to teach that skill in general of following up and making sure you're tracking these kinds of requests yourself when you're dealing with this type of work, especially because it's so important. So talking about asking now, how to do it, now who to ask. This one often causes a lot of head scratching and consternation. But at the outset, we'll start by saying the class in which the student is doing the best is not always going to be the best letter of recommendation. So think of it this way. If things are coming so easily and naturally for the student, there is not necessarily a really huge story there in some cases. Sometimes a more compelling letter of recommendation actually comes from a teacher for or in whose class the student maybe had a couple of stumbles or had to struggle in the beginning but then figured things out. Especially that story is a great one to tell. But again, easy A's don't always equate to top-notch letters of recommendation because they're where's the story in that? So I ask students all the time to think about where they feel like they've had a particular success, small or large, whatever the case may be. Maybe there was a challenge that led to that success, but what specifically are they thinking about when they're considering asking a particular teacher? It should not be, I'm going to ask my English teacher because I know English teachers are going to be better writers. That may be true, but we don't want to also label a whole set of other teachers as not good writers. But that doesn't mean that the letter of recommendation personally is going to hit the mark. So we got to think about it in terms of those things. The other thing that's really important is we've got to start with junior year teachers. So who during this current junior year is someone or are two someones that this student feels like they could ask to write a letter of recommendation? If they can only come up with one, that's okay, and then we can talk about other grade levels below that. But ideally, we're looking for junior year teachers and in a core subject area, at least the primary one. So the first teacher or the primary letter, which means if a college will only accept one letter of recommendation, the primary letter needs to come from a core academic teacher. So English, math, history, science, or foreign language, one of those people. Now, after that, again, different grade levels, could be an elective course. Sometimes we have students who are very involved in like their engineering career pathway, and that teacher or a teacher from one of those classes would be a really great option for them in addition to someone from a core class when it comes to that. So thinking about it in terms of targeting the specific grade level and then a core class first. Then also remembering that there are times when you may be able to submit an even additional letter of recommendation. That is going to vary completely from college to college depending on how much they allow students to submit. But that could even be somebody from the community, somebody that you volunteered with or is connected through church or supervise the student in a job or something like that. So there are ways to kind of expand who that other recommender might be. But for the beginning, we want junior year teacher, core academic subject, and then other teachers. The other thing to think about is what is important in this letter is really about what kind of student they are. I get students who get really caught up in the I need a math teacher because I'm going to major in finance or accounting. And that is not necessarily untrue. However, it's more about who is going to be the best advocate from any subject that you had during high school. So that's really important to help your children keep at the forefront of their thought is just who's the best advocate overall? I have given you some parameters to think about and work within, but it doesn't necessarily have to align specifically with future potential major plans. There are some exceptions to that rule. There are a couple of colleges out there in the world who will say, if you're applying to this particular major, we expect you to have this kind of recommender. But that is going to be so list dependent that a lot of times we're not going to know that information until the list is fully built and we are really into the final details of what is required for each and every application. So thinking of it, just again, broader terms to recap. Time to ask is now. The way to ask is to start doing so in person, then following up with an email, and you're keeping in mind junior year teachers in a core academic subject that you feel like have a story to tell about some type of success from their classroom. If you want to talk about any of this, obviously we are always here. We love to help our students make the best choices when it comes to how their entire application and story is going to come together. And if we can be of service to you, we'd love to.